Welcome back to Tech Vets, the podcast. Today we are joined by David Attwood, who is a Pega consultant at Labb Consulting. Welcome, David. How are you tonight?
Yes, not bad. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And the reason that we've got you on is to talk about a number of things working in tech, working with Labb, working as a Pega consultant, because that's key, because Pega are one of our Tech Vets partners. And also, the kind of icing on the cake is that you are a veteran. So let's start there. What did you do? What was your service?
So I was in the Air Force for 12 and a half years. I was an air and space operations specialist, but it's come under different names over the years. So flight operations, effectively, work as part of air traffic control or work on a squadron, work in operations. So we do lots of different roles throughout the Air Force. It's got a bit of a mixed bag, really.
What did you like about the role?
It's just very versatile. It was never the same day, twice. It was always changing, very flexible, very reactive as well. So you was always on your toes, always ready to just go at any moment. So yeah, you never did the same day. You never did the same job twice.
Where were some of the places that you went in your career?
Oh, so I served in Cyprus for 3 years, which was quite nice. Served at various units throughout the UK, different platforms, rotary, fixed wing. Um, and then I've also served in the Falklands, did a tour there, and I also did a tour in Afghanistan as well while it
What
was
do
still
you,
active.
what would you say were the downsides, and what eventually made you leave?
Um, for me, the downsides was I had a new family, so I didn't want to keep having to move. I wanted stability for them and my kids. Um, the difficulty with pay, and they do pay reasonable, but I imagine that people probably are struggling a little bit with the cost of living as it is at the moment. Um, yeah, I think I wanted to leave the Air Force before I started resenting it. It's very easy to get trapped into a pension trap, and you do so many years, and you go, "Oh, I'm just going to keep pushing for those 6 years, or I've got a few more years left, and I get my full pension." And people fail to recognise that if they're in there unhappy. If they left earlier, then they can earn the money and still earn money for their pension outside of the military. And there's nothing wrong with it. I enjoyed my time in. I look back on very happy memories, which is good. Um, but as an organization, I think they're very good at making you feel like there's nothing else out there apart from what you're doing. They're very good at making you feel like you can't do any of the job. And if you leave, well, what are you going to do? Well, I don't know. What do the other millions of people in the UK do apart from being in the military? So yeah, and that was just my time to leave. Really, it was time to change and try something different, a new challenge.
When you'd made the decision to leave the RAF and you knew you wanted to get into tech, um, how did you find the route? How did you find what you wanted to do?
Um, well, whenever you're leaving, especially, it's very difficult to know about different types of um, jobs that are in certain industries because you don't have very much exposure. So for me, I know I wanted to go into tech, but I didn't quite understand how many job roles there were. So unless it's your hobby to do coding or a hobby to do certain sort of things within the tech industry, it's hard to know all of them. For me, I was quite interested in going down the networking route because I like hands-on with the tools, and I also wanted to deal with software as well. So it was quite a nice balance. It wasn't until I come across another company which showed me Pega. Never heard of it before. I had dealt with a bit of logic type software while I was in the Air Force, and they helped me find Pega effectively. They showed me what it was all about, and it got me interested straight away. Got me hooked. And as soon as I sort of found that, I didn't want to do anything else really. So I just diverted all my energy into Pega.
What is the Pega training? Because Tech Vets offer Pega training to Tech
hmm
Vets members, but for those who haven't heard of Pega, what can they expect, and what does it kind of offer or take you to?
So Pega is low code app development. And when I say app development, is, it's not like what you download on your phone or, games. It's more business solutions. So you're developing applications for businesses to help with business processes, but you don't use coding. So they call it low code. You have a GUI and you have an interface which you interact with, and the program writes the code for you, Java in the background. So the training that you will go through will be through the Pega Academy. It's free for access as well. You just pay for the certifications, the tests, and part of that will be it will sort of be modules, and part of the modules that will be broken down into lessons, and you'll have a theory lesson which can last anywhere between sort of 15 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on how complex that module is. And then straight after that, you'll do a practical simulation of what you've just learned. So they've got environments which you can go and work with Pega, and you can start playing around with the program itself, and you'll start putting into practice what you've just learned. So it's not like you do all your theory at once and then do some practical. It is layered.
How long does it take you from, say someone decides, right, I'm going to have a look at Pega, to get to where you are as a Pega consultant? How long is that journey?
It really depends on, it depends first of all what avenue you want to go down, because you could be a developer as a systems architect, or you could go down the business architect route. So very much like your business analysts, but it's more sort of Pega focused. That's the first thing. The training itself depends on how much time you've got. I did my systems architect and business architect at the same time, and I think if I remember rightly, it took me maybe 2 or 3 months, but that was like solid 8 hours a day studying. It is achievable in the evenings, but part of that 3 months that I sort of did it, I did have capstones in there, so I did have projects which I had to develop my own application, and then I had to present it at the end of it, which that must have been 4 weeks actually. So 4 weeks of that was developing applications ready to present.
And was it virtual, or was there any of it that was in classroom based or presenting?
You can, but I think you can do classroom based, but I think you have to pay for that. This was all virtual, no classroom based, in your own time, at your own pace. It's very flexible. There's a big, there is a Pega community out there. So if you have questions, there are people that you can ask. Even on the Pega community site, you can ask a question and somebody will reply to you.
And from doing the qualifications to securing a job, at what point did you kind of know that you were going to get a job as a Pega consultant? Did you get offered while you're on the course, or did you have to wait to get the certifications?
That's it. The company I was with before this one, it was sort of part of what they were doing at the time, which was, training on the job, training first, and then they're going to send you off to one of their clients as a consultant, for like a year or two. And then at the end of that year, then either you can go back on the bench with the company you work for, or that company might offer you a full-time job at the end of it. So I sort of already had a job waiting for me at the end of this process, because they had requested, X amount of Pega architects. It wasn't until I'd done sort of maybe 6 months, about just under 6 months at this company, that Labb got in contact with me, and I had an interview with them, and then joined Labb.
So you got poached.
Effectively, yeah, but I was doing a very different role in my first job. I was working as more of a level 3 support, Pega support, for an application that was already, live for 4 years. So I was more in a support role then, and now I've jumped into a development role this time. So I'm a consultant, but I'm doing more development than support, I would say.
How is the wage comparable to military service? Did you take a pay drop when you were training and in your first job?
No, I took a significant pay increase overnight, to to the point where I think it would have taken me another 10. Well, I don't think I would have even reached those wages, to be honest with you. On the trajectory that I was on in the military, I probably would never have reached the wages that I'm on. You are sort of looking at, top level flight sergeant, warrant officer pay in the NCO ranks, really high up there, equivalent overnight.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so it's hard. I even got offered promotion twice while I'd already left, and they were like, "I'm okay, thank you. I don't think you can really compete with these offers that I've got."
That's amazing. And do you think the jobs market is still like that? Because when you left kind of post-COVID, there was obviously a digital boom. Do you think the market is still there for Pega consultants and people to go through the training and still expect that kind of wage?
Yes, I do, because Pega is quite niche compared to your coders who do development. Your Python coding, all those, Java, JavaScript, everything else. Although there is still need for these full stack developers and everything else, Pega is very niche. We don't have a massive amount of people in the UK who do it. So, but they're always crying out for more people. So, especially in this particular niche, yes, I would say there's always jobs there to get. I mean, I think we are always looking for new people.
What do you like about the job, and what would you say would attract other people in? I mean, obviously, people listening to this will probably just hear about the potential for earning and go, "Yeah,
Of
sign me
course,
up.
yeah.
Where's the link?" But in day to day, what do you love about what you do?
It really does depend on what type of person you are. So, and it also depends on location. So for me, I work at home the majority of the time. In fact, all the time, I pretty much work at home, which is fine. You are constantly on meetings and team calls, so you do speak to your team. And if you're a part of a good team, then you'll organise things in the background as well, which is good. However, it can be lonely at home if you don't have people around, or if you do have people in the house, then it can also be a distraction. So it works a bit both ways. So it depends how comfortable you are in your own skin and how much you need to socialise. I do go into the office down in London as much as we can. At least once a month we try to get down there, and we're also hold meetings once a month for the people who live up north as well. So the company is quite flexible when it comes to that. But a lot of the time, unless you're working for a client who does want you to come into the office, it is quite a lot of the time at home. I know for Labb anyway, for graduates or people who are untrained, they do go into the office 2 or 3 times a week. But people who sort of may all be already qualified or be doing it a while, then maybe more at home based.
Okay, I think that's good to know, because I think a lot of people still expect things to be remote, but with a lot of people going back into the office, it's good to know that it is that flexible.
It's very much encouraged with the Lab anyway. It's very much encouraged to go into the office, because you could get stuck on something with your project, but you can ask the person next to you or the person opposite you a question about that piece of development, even though they could possibly be working with a different client. You all work with the same system, so that bringing your skill level up quickly, it's a very effective way of doing it.
How do you think that compares to how you worked with people in the military?
Well, again, my job was quite unique in the fact that every time I moved to a different unit or different job, I would have to retrain in that job. So you'd know the basics, but you'd have to retrain, go through the training and standards again before you could even be let loose on your own. However, yeah, it's very much the same thing. Quite similar for me anyway. I'm learning something new, and with any sort of thing like Pega or coding, there's always something new. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, there'll be something that will baffle you. So you never stop learning. It's always challenging. It's always exciting.
Do you think that's what makes you good at your job, is that adaptability that you probably grew from experience in the military?
Yeah, you just get stuck in. I think a lot of military people can't sit still long enough, and they don't like to drag their heels, and they just have a natural work ethic which is ingrained in you by the military. So when you jump over to Civvy Street and you start working a job like this, that mentality never leaves. You just carry on just doing but you're just doing something different. So the passion to learn more and to achieve more and to impress and to be part of the team that is contributing to the team is probably, not saying that obviously people who aren't military don't do that, but I think it's more evident with the military people. It's just ingrained in them.
Do any of the team that you work with ever comment on? Do they know you're ex-military? Do they ever comment on how your behaviour in being different to theirs or other people's?
If anything, it's more my speech probably. If I'm talking to one of my teammates, then sometimes I can say some military slang, and they just don't understand me. They're like, "What's that? What are you talking about?" So, yeah, that one comes up quite often. But yes, I think my work ethic has been noticed, and people who have, some of the members have worked with military staff before, and it's a trend that they've seen across different companies with ex-military vets, that the work ethic is the same for all of us.
Do you think that's why Labb is keen to recruit more veterans into the company?
I think that's one of the reasons. I think having that work ethic and that can-do attitude really does benefit. Equally, military guys have got a wealth of knowledge and skills. So as much as one of my teammates is 10 years younger than me, if not more, he's been doing Pega a lot longer than me. He's more senior to me, but so for him it's difficult teaching me new things. Not difficult, but it's strange for him. But I says what he doesn't understand is I've already had a career before this. So those skills and that knowledge that you do gain, those soft skills that you gain from being in the military, is transferable, and surprisingly, how much transferable. Especially as a consultant, as a developer, that attitude to learn more, yes, does come into it. But from a consultant point of view, which we all are at Labb, we're not just developers, we're consultants. Those soft skills are really important. Presenting to people, communicating with people, all these sorts of things is what they really want. Instead of taking somebody who may not have had any experience, graduates, for instance, may not have had experience presenting to large teams or to clients, and having to teach that over time, is one thing they're going to have to do. But with military, a lot of the time, they don't have to teach people to do that. They can just go with it. If you just say you're doing this, they'll just go, okay, I'm doing it. If I don't know how to do it, I'll learn how to do it and just go, okay. So that's one thing it's good from a consulting point of view.
How has your life changed? Like, how has your family life changed since you started on this tech path?
Yeah, it's for me, it's worked out really well. It means I can take my daughter to nursery in the mornings. I can pick her up. So that family life at home, I'm a lot more flexible. I can be at home more. I'm not away. So that's good. Financially, yes, obviously I'm a lot more comfortable than I was before. So we don't have that stress as much. From a mental health point of view, I would say it again depends on the type of person you are. For me, I don't mind working at home, but I have had to get something outside of work and outside of the house for myself, because I think one of the hardest things about leaving the military is you belonged to something. You belonged to the same organization. You all work together as a unit. It was like a big giant family. And then once you leave and you're sat at home on your own and everybody's at work and everybody's at school, you've missed that belonging to something. So I think it's important to get a hobby or something outside of work where they can still fulfill that need.
So what hobby have you taken up?
I enjoy photography. I went to have a go at airsoft the other day. I haven't seen that before, so I thought I'd give that a go. And I play music, so I want to join a band.
That's amazing.
So yeah, probably wouldn't have the opportunity before. I'd be too busy with work, but now I've got that flexibility, I guess, on the weekends anyway.
What instruments do you play?
I play the guitar, and I'm learning piano at the moment.
So if anyone's listening and they're looking for a bass guitar, electric guitar,
Just a normal electric
acoustic.
guitar, yeah, electric acoustic, yeah.
Okay, so they know who to reach out to if they're looking for another member of the band. How has Tech Vets played a role, or did you come across Tech Vets? How is it
Yes,
kind of
yeah.
helped you?
So when I was sort of looking through, when I first started leaving the Air Force, you do get this imposter syndrome. Like you click those buttons, and you do go, great, I feel really excited now. I'm moving on to my next chapter, and then the next few days, you'll just have this overwhelming fearing of what have I just done. And then you do have to remind yourself it's going to be okay. You're going to find a job. Don't worry. You've got to be positive. And then when you do get a job, you start to have this imposter syndrome. Like, am I good enough? Can I do this job? I've never done this before, but you can. So one of the big things for me was, how am I going to find a job? How do I get into the tech industry? And it wasn't until I started doing research that I come across Tech Vets. So I registered with Tech Vets myself, looking at the sort of cybersecurity thing, because that could be quite interesting to do. I never really looked at it before. I thought you had to be really, for me, I thought if you hack at home and if you do coding at home, then that's great for you. But if you don't, you're always behind the curve. But that was interesting to look at, the pen testing and stuff. I thought that could be quite interesting. Just trying to get my head into the mindset of what is out there. So Tech Vets, yeah, I did look at Tech Vets. As I said, I found another company who I sort of started working with, which was guiding me down towards Pega, which I wanted. So, but I don't think at the time Tech Vets were doing Pega. I think that was quite recent. After I just sort of got my certs, that you started looking at that.
Yeah. So I think, because I think now people can get, there's certainly certifications and the exams that can be covered through the Tech Vets Pega partnership.
Yes, yeah.
Which is great. So it has changed. It has changed a lot in the last couple of years in the offering to veterans, but unfortunately, it was a bit too late for you because you were already trailblazing.
Well, trying to, but I think it's great what Tech Vets do. To be honest with you, I'm surprised there isn't more organisations out there trying to help veterans. I do know a couple of ones who help with sort of CV writing, and possibly they run like job fairs and things. But yeah, there's not as many as you think, and Tech Vets is definitely one of the leaders in that sort of sphere.
And kind of finally, just to wrap up, I think for anyone who's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, Pega sounds interesting. I want to leave, but I'm scared. What bit of advice would you give to them?
Just do it. To be honest with you, just do it, because you will get a job. It sounds really funny. I mean, I was leaving at the same time as a friend of mine who went down the project management Scrum Master route, and he didn't have any project manager qualifications behind him, nothing like that, and he got a job straight off the bat. Again, trained him up, and then he got he got poached for another job within 8 months of him being with his company, and he's doing great as well. There are loads of jobs out there. You just need to, as soon as I think the biggest thing is preparation. If you just put your PVR in and don't do anything to the last 6 months, then you're going to fail. You will find a job, but it's probably not the job that you're going to want to. You're setting yourself off on the back foot. So my advice is, if you do want to leave, then do it. Just press those buttons, because and then as soon as you start doing it, prepare. Use that year to 2 years of your resettlement to set yourself up for into a good position. Use Tech Vets. Use what's out there, and networking. Make sure you network. Get on LinkedIn. Networking is key. To be honest with you, that if you're going to find a job, it's going to be through networking.
And talking about networking, if people would like to reach out to you personally to ask your advice, how can they get in touch with you?
You can get in contact with me on LinkedIn. I'll see if I can. I think it's just David Attwood. Let me have a quick look here. I'll get you a proper URL for it.
Yeah, your David Attwood one.
That's the one. Yeah,
One
that's
word.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can use that, and yeah, just ping me a message, and I'll see if I will get back to you, give you a hand.
Brilliant, thank you, David. So I'll put that. I'll put David's LinkedIn URL in the description for this podcast. And then for anyone who is listening who would like to find out more about getting trained up in Pega and following in David's footsteps, just head to www.techvets.co and you can join as a member, and then you'll be able to access all of the information about Pega and training and certifications through the website. So David, I'll let you go, but it would be great to catch up with you down the line, because it sounds like you are firing on all cylinders. And I think for anyone listening to this who's thinking about retraining, they'll probably be trying to tap you up for a job soon.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.